Hey everyone, welcome to the Infinite Binge. We are talking about Stranger Things 2, episode 5, Dig Dug. I'm Jake, and who else is here?
Kevin.
And Andrew.
Welcome back, guys.
Welcome back. I feel like I've been caught in the upside down here a little bit.
Yeah, you sound like it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get what Hopper's feeling.
Oh yeah.
Just please don't spit up any monsters or anything, please.
Yeah, I mean, if I can avoid it, I will. Just please, just I'm really hoping that I don't start seeing, the upside down flashing around me, even though I'm in the real world.
That'd be bad.
That would be very bad.
It'd probably make work more interesting though, so I don't think I'd mind it too much as long as that's the only time it happened.
Yeah, you don't want it to cut into your personal time.
No, but at work.
So let's just jump right in. The episode opens with Joyce trying to reach Hop. She notices something about one of the drawings and tries to find where it fits. Will feels what the monster feels, sees what it sees. He's explaining all this to Mike about like these now memories. It's like he's a spy, but what if the monster thing is spying back?
Yeah, and that's kind of when Mike's like, "No, we won't let him do that."
I think
He's confident.
Yeah, Mike is a little too overconfident.
It's like we're dealing with powers that we can't even possibly comprehend here, bud.
You're dealing with beings from another dimension.
At least he's not being a huge grumble puss at this point though, so I'll take it.
Well, the episode's still new, still fresh. Let's see where it takes us. There's still plenty of time.
So then the episode cuts to Hopper in the upside down tunnel.
Yeah, what a dummy. Who does this?
Yeah,
Who goes into a place like that alone?
Why? As soon as he saw what it is, he should have got out. Just like instantly.
Yep, and been like, "Hey, lab."
He's been in the upside down before, like the actual upside down. He knows what it looks like.
Yeah, so
but he doesn't know what it smells like because he had that protective suit on before.
He decided he didn't need it this time.
He's like, I'm gonna just rub some dirt on it.
Yeah, as the walls are puking on him.
Well, yeah, because he goes in and it more coughs on him, I would say, right?
Well, it does something to him,
or like it burps at him, and then he passes out because he inhales whatever it is, and
I don't think he passed out right away.
It was pretty quickly though. Like it like burped in his face, and then he would kind of stumbled around, and then down.
Yeah, and then the hole he came in closed.
Yeah,
he should have just got right out. That was dumb.
Very dumb.
Then it goes to Jonathan and Nancy, and they check in at the motel. They get a double room.
Yeah.
Yeah, no single, unfortunately.
They kind of talk, and they notice that they only seem to hang out when the world's about to end.
Yeah.
And they compare scars.
Oh yeah.
From their hand.
The hand from marks.
Her scar was bigger.
That seemed like an odd thing, but a very teenager thing to point out. And then they kind of talked about how he wasn't really around much. You get the sense that she wanted him to be around, like she was ready to commit to him.
She said she waited a month.
Yeah, but he needed to be there for Will. And then he didn't, like Steve was there.
And then cuts back to Will. And he's saying he knows where Hopper is and that he thinks he's gonna die. And then we cut back to Hopper finally waking up from his burp coma. Still alive. But now he tries to get out. But he gets to a dead end because the hole's closed. Because he's a dummy.
And then it cuts to Lucas getting advice from his dad about how to, apologize to women. And there's so much about this that is like so true. This is so easy to kind of go through, and it's like, oh, first I apologize, and then I get her whatever she wants. And what if she's wrong? Oh, she's never wrong, son.
Yeah, I like how much they're bringing like family into this one, as opposed to season one where there wasn't any, but now we get them and they show Dustin's mom and, you know, kind of expanding that. But yeah, that part was pretty great. Oh, she's never wrong, son.
Oh, yeah. Well, then they also kind of introduce his younger sister into it.
Yeah, yeah.
And she shows back up later, and she's good.
Well, yeah, and they had her teasing him when, in those a couple earlier episodes.
Oh, right, yeah.
But then we go, from there over to Dustin, and his mom's still freaking out about where the cat went, so he lies to her, and then he is trying to catch Dart, so he kind of puts a bunch of food down outside of a storm cellar.
Yeah, kind of leads him outside.
It was baloney, right?
Yeah, that was baloney.
It was a lot of baloney.
It was a lot of baloney.
For such a little beast. But I love how he kind of dresses up and he puts on like the stuff for. He puts on like all the hockey pads and stuff, like for a goalie.
Then he does eventually get it to go in the storm cellar.
Yeah, kind of when he hits him, like whacks him with the hockey stick, gets him in there, and like closes the doors. He's like, "I'm sorry that you ate my cat."
Accurate. I feel bad for his mom.
Yeah.
Then it goes to 11 and she's hitchhiking. And she's like getting rides from like semis, right?
Yeah. Semi truck driver just kind of brings her to see.
Is that how it was in the 80s?
I guess.
It was just that easy to hitchhike? Maybe in Indiana.
In the 80s. Well, we have a thing here called Hoosier Hospitality.
That's true.
I've heard of it. We also didn't lock our doors. Some still don't.
You should lock your doors.
Probably.
But then she gets out. She unlocks the door. Says, "I want to see Mama," because she's there to. That's at the house, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Her, with Terry Ives, and her sister thinks she's like a Girl Scout or something trying to sell cookies. She's like, no way.
So she just like closes the door and locks it. So she uses her mind powers.
Most effective and rational use of mind powers goes to this scene.
Then it goes to Jonathan and Nancy. They find Murray.
Yeah, look into the camera.
And not the speaker.
The camera.
Up and to your right.
And so then Murray shows him all the information that he's all certain of, and how he's kind of close on a bunch of things, but the timeline's all wrong. So Jonathan and Nancy fix all his information.
And we get to see Max pulling up to the arcade with her brother, Billy.
The worst. Billy
is still the worst. So she immediately goes to the Dig Dug machine, but it's got like an out of order there, sign there. So the attendant is like, "Oh, sorry about that, Road Warrior." But there's a machine in the back that he has.
Why would they have a special Dig Dug machine just in the back, like behind closed doors?
Because it's special, but turns out it's not a special machine. It's just a Lucas.
Being creepy.
Yeah. So, what did the worker say?
Oh, didn't Lucas promise him a date?
Yeah,
with Nancy.
Did. Yeah,
because he can deliver on that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, he totally has all sorts of bearing.
So, but then Max is like, "What's going on?" And Lucas says he'll tell her everything, as long as she accepts the risk and promises not to tell anybody. And then he starts the story about, Will wasn't lost in the woods. He was somewhere else.
Yeah, and she's kind of like, he goes through this whole thing where he's trying to get her to say, yeah, I accept the risk of this, but she's kind of rightfully skeptical that this is a big deal.
Yeah. She thinks that this is just him trying to impress her or something. But then it goes to Will. He draws where he saw Hopper. They just need to figure out where that is. So Bob gets drafted to help.
That's my name.
What's that next? Pirate treasure?
Like, the only way that line could have been better is if they had said rich stuff.
Or what do you got? What's at the X? One-Eyed Willie's treasure?
Yeah, exactly. See, the only problem with that would have been the fact that it takes place in 1984, and I think Goonies was like 1985, 1986.
No, I'm saying this is set in the Goonies universe. Everybody knows about One-Eyed Willie.
Oh, well, I mean, obviously. Yeah, One-Eyed Willie. You know, and that was the landlocked Indiana.
Yep.
You know, we have basically one shore with on Lake Michigan.
I mean, Lake Michigan is huge.
It's a big lake.
It's a
One
great
might-
lake.
Yeah, I was going to say
It's
one might call it
great.
a Great Lake. I've been in that lake.
Dude, the Great Lakes are ginormous.
And cold. The cold lakes.
Like, big lake.
But Bob is concerned about what's happening.
You know,
Kind of
rightfully
rightfully so, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, he was concerned up until the point where he figured out what everything was. Then he was on
got
board.
excited.
He figures out that the drawings were all just a big map
Yeah, it's like,
of,
wait,
of Hawkins.
I know where that is. That's Lover's Pond. Oh, yeah,
Lover's
that's
Lake.
like whatever. Or Lover's Lake. Yeah, whatever it was. Yeah, and then he's just running around all excited, like, oh, yeah, this is this.
Like, and yeah, I don't think it happens like here, but like later on when they're trying to like figure out, they're trying to like triangulate some of this stuff, and they finally hit like an actual name of something that would appear in Indiana, and that's Tippecanoe. Because all the rest of it's like bullshit. It's like, you know, the Etowah is not in Indiana, like I think that they had in either, I think it was in the first season or whatever, or maybe it was in the first episode. But it was, you know, just some of the different landmarks had never quite hit, but Tippecanoe is like spot on.
But, yeah. After that, it cuts back to, Hopper still trying to make his way out, but, no luck. So then, cuts back to Dustin trying to get, you know, Mike, Lucas, anyone on the walkie, but he's not getting any response. Hopper's MIA, and he has his code red, and so while he's trying to get it, Lucas's sister, Erica, picks it up, and she starts responding to him, and it's a pretty funny little back and forth they have, because she doesn't care.
No, not at all. She's annoyed by this whole situation.
Doesn't know and doesn't care. She's the only thing that's going on in her mind is how she can get more syrup on her plate at breakfast.
That was a lot of syrup.
It's the best. Yeah, but then she, in response to his code red, she gives him a code "shut your mouth" and shuts off the walkie.
Then it cuts back to 11 and her aunt. And she's trying to get some information out of 11. And 11 will have to talk to her when she's ready. And there's lights flickering. And she's following the lights, and it leads to Terry. That's 11's mom, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Terry is Jane's mom, 11's mom, and
Yeah.
Becky is her sister, who is 11's aunt.
Yeah, so then, she follows the lights up to Terry, and Terry's nose is bleeding just like 11's does.
Kind of in the whole time that they've been there, she keeps repeating the same words.
Yeah.
Well, I guess some of them are like small phrases.
Yeah.
Like very short, like 3 to 6 word phrases.
But it's all just kind of nonsense. It's
Yeah, and some
meaningless.
numbers and stuff too.
Yeah. Well, it appears to be meaningless.
It's similar to the 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42.
Yeah.
But with some of that stuff, it seems more random because, you know, at least with those, it's like, hey, these are all numbers. But cut back to the buyers, and they're trying to like plot the map and like do triangulation and like try to figure out what the distance is.
Yeah, and I love Bob's like, well, I'm not quite sure if this is to scale or not. He's getting like all really technical.
It's like, and yeah, he says like, if you twist my arm and you're really twisting my arm, my best guess is like the X is a half mile southeast of Danford or something like that. Or is it southwest? It's something. It's like a half mile from Danford.
Bob is the best.
Bob is really good. Yeah, it's they got a real life Goonie.
He's the best.
Yeah, just hope he doesn't suck. Still his best line.
I don't know everything he did when he was trying to tell Joyce how to hook up the camera to the TV.
That is true.
That still cracks me up. She's trying to like put that little tape into the VCR. Oh man,
that was great.
That was so funny. But anyway, the next scene is probably one of my favorite ones in the entire series up to this point. When Dustin goes to the Wheeler house, and it's kind of funny because you see like these different political ads, like the yard signs around, because it's 1984. It's an election year, and like I can't remember her first name, but Mama Wheeler is on the phone. She's like talking to someone. And she like brings up Margaret Thatcher or something. But anyway, he gets the doorbell's ringing, so she gets Ted to answer the door. And first, he's looking for Mike and trying to find out where Mike is, and he's over at Will's. And then and then he's like, okay, well, that's something. So, where Nancy is, and Nancy's over at Allie's, and then Ted has the smart-ass response of, our children don't live here anymore, don't you know that? And Dustin says to him, son of a bitch, you really are no help at all.
Yeah, the best response.
Someone had to tell him.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, that was such a meta moment.
Like I said, the actor that's playing Ted is playing him perfectly.
Oh yeah, yep. It's just so, it's almost self-aware.
Yeah.
But then Dustin sees Steve pull up, and Steve's like getting out to go bring flowers to Nancy. And Dustin's like, are those for Mr. and Mrs. Wheeler? And he's like, no. It's like, well, Nancy's not here. We need to go. Do you still have that bat? And he's like, what bat? The bat with the nails in it.
Yeah, and then he's like, yeah, I guess so. It's like, oh, okay. And he just gets in the car. He's like, okay, this is where we're going.
So that was Jonathan's bat, right? He stole Jonathan's bat.
Yeah, well, but he was effective with
Jonathan,
it.
Though.
Yeah.
He was way more effective.
Yeah, Jonathan kind of didn't do anything. He made it. That was as far as he got.
That is, his weapon of choice was the lighter, I believe.
Yeah, which he did okay with.
He threw that lighter on the ground real good. Real well. But then it cuts to Hopper, right? And he's trying to dig himself out.
Yep, digging a hole in the wall, but getting absolutely nowhere.
No, it's not looking good for Hopper right now. Because he gets real tired, because digging a hole is not easy.
Especially from far underground.
And then,
despite what the previous episode would lead you to believe, where he digs like an 8-foot hole in 20 minutes.
Well, and I think even beyond that, like when he did that, he had a shovel.
That's true.
Well, but he also does have hands made of steel or something, because his hands were fine, not wearing gloves and shoveling that whole thing, and now he's been digging a huge hole in the wall with his hands still perfectly fine.
It's not like there's gravel or anything that would be cutting up his hands.
No, he's indestructible.
Obviously not, because when he gets tired and he goes to rest, and then he gets swallowed up by these vine creatures.
The vines waited for their moment, and they found it.
He's not destroyed yet, though. He's
incapacitated.
He's just well on his way to getting the shit kicked out of him by vines.
Oh yeah. And then cut back to back to the arcade.
This is one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah, it was good. Lucas finishes telling Max the story, and he's like, "Well," she goes, "Well, I think it was a little derivative."
Yeah, she's like, "It's good. It's really good. It's just a little derivative. It's not really all that original."
Yeah, just doesn't believe him at all.
Well, and that's basically everyone's criticism of the first season of Stranger Things.
What, that it was derivative?
Yeah, it's good. It's derivative, and it's not all that original. So they're kind of poking fun at themselves.
But yeah, then he kind of like they she goes back out to some other arcade machines, and she just starts talking about it, and he starts freaking out at her, and she's kind of like, "Wait a sec, this is serious?" Because he starts really he cups. Yeah, she starts saying something, and he puts his hand over her mouth to like stop her from talking aloud. She's like, "Oh, maybe this is serious." And then,
it seems like even if she doesn't like fully believe him, like she believes. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and then the great moment is interrupted by the wonderful character of Billy, who comes to pick her up.
The only character in the show, well, never mind. I was gonna say, like, the only characters on the show that are as bad as him would be like the Jerk Squad from the first season, but he's probably worst.
Yeah, because he can run people over.
He doesn't seem to have any redeeming qualities.
That is true.
Like, the only thing that you can hope is that he does wind up having some sort of turn where he, like, I hope he has some sort of turn, sort of like what Steve had in the first season.
Well, they're not doing anything to indicate that's coming.
No, it just seems.
You see, the thing with Steve in the first season was like he never really did anything himself that was all that bad. He was around bad things, but we never really saw him do it.
Yeah, and there were still glimpses of him in season 1 too, where it's like, oh, that was a nice thing.
But then with what's his name, Billy, there's nothing. He's not a good dude.
No. But yeah, cut from our boy Billy, then back over to Nancy and Jonathan playing the tape for is it Murray, right?
Yes.
Yeah, from the lab. And so he sits there. They're like, "Well, what do we do?" And then he's like, "Well, I need to think with vodka." So he throws on, and I was quite happy to hear this as well. He throws on some nice Billie Holiday, goes to his fridge, pulls out some vodka, which normally you keep that in the freezer, but that's neither here nor there. And then as he's drinking it, kind of watering it down, Nancy says something, and then it hits him that they need to water it down, and then they use the vodka in the water he's pouring in it. Is like, oh yes, you have to water it down so it's more tolerable,
make the story more believable.
Yeah,
that's where he goes out. Yeah, he's like, Barb was exposed to some toxins.
Yep.
Something terrible, but ultimately believable.
Yeah, and him and Nancy there have like that quick back and forth, kind of coming up with that little fake story.
Was the next scene then the back at the lab?
Yes.
And they're doing the experiments on the soil. They were like, well, the soil seems normal at first, but then you do this thing, and then it looks like real bad stuff.
Yeah, you put some fire under it, and it makes a little soil tornado. And it does that to all the soil in the area, I guess?
Yeah, it was like it was all connected.
And then they're like, oh, so we were 100% wrong, and Hopper was 100% right.
As we knew would be the case, these guys are all idiots. DOE has never been right about anything. But then it's 11. Cuts back to 11. She's trying to reach out to her mother.
And basically Terry starts to show her everything that had happened.
Yeah.
From the time that she was born to to basically the time that she was taken, or shortly after, and kind of goes through everything where they show basically all the little things that happen around the words that she says.
Yeah, so now all those words make sense. You have the context for all of them. And it also showed 11 as a baby in a room, right, with another kid.
Yeah, with Collie, or I assume it's Collie.
I mean, it's gotta be.
Then Bob, Joyce, Will, and Mike go to the pumpkin patch, and they start digging, looking for Hopper in his hole that he dug. And Bob and Joyce go down into the tunnel, and then the DOE shows up, but then they find Hopper and they free him, and the DOE starts burning the place to the ground like they should. But then Will starts to seize. He seems to be reacting poorly to the fire.
And
Even though
what
he's nowhere
a
near
good
it.
performance that was.
Yeah, he's a pretty good actor.
And scene.
Yeah, that's how the episode ended.
So clearly you hurt the vines and stuff. It hurts a Will. But
Yeah, I think it has something similar to like the soil, like igniting that stuff does something to him as well.
well, now is it only because he's close though? Or is it just because they're doing it at all? Because as the drawings show, those things are everywhere. And they kind of burn them off, at least back at the lab, like on a regular basis, it seems. So I wonder if it was just because he was like above them that it hit him so hard, or if he's just that connected now.
Yeah, I think it's because it went into him. Because this is the first time that we've seen it burn after he's been like
Yeah, it's true.
possessed by it, I guess. I think the show is picking up now. Started out a little slow, but it's moving.
Yeah, very much that kind of style of a lot of the first few episodes was set up.
Yeah,
Yeah, things are definitely happening.
really looking forward to see the Dustin Steve dynamic. See how that goes. It's got to be good stuff, right?
It's gotta be.
Yeah, hopefully.
Anything else you guys want to add before I wrap up? All right. Thanks for listening. Make sure you like us and subscribe and share us and do all that good stuff. Leave some comments. And also, you should listen to the All Talk podcast where we talk about all the geek stuff and the Geek Box and Comic Conspiracy and Manga Machinations. And thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.